At the Waldorf? It's only the wedding of the millennium, chirped another PR lackey. Oh, okay. Should I go now? Yes, we have to rush it over this second, snapped Giselle. Vogue's photographer is already there setting up lighting, and Ms. Pelham's assistant just called to say she changed her mind and wants to wear this piece instead of the Schlumstein deco necklace. Naturally, we had to have it cleaned to perfection, so we've been in an absolute tizzy. This is very late. Giselle looked Julia straight in the eye. It was clear to Julia that her future with Pelham's, if not more, was riding on her skills as a courier. The next thing she knew, Julia was being handcuffed to a chrome briefcase. Apparently, the velvet box had been placed inside. A man who could have been a Mr. Smith clone from The Matrix, complete with black suit and dark sunglasses, escorted her out of the conference room. On their way out, Julia noticed that he had one of those curly ear wires straight out of a Secret Service detail. They exited through a back door on 58th Street. A few passing pedestrians gawked and pointed as they entered a limousine, which quickly pulled away. Julia could only marvel as the limo cruised through the most fashionable part of town. What a mission! She was certainly a long way from the vineyard in Napa Valley where she had grown up and worked since college. Had it really been almost a year since she'd traded the secure familiarity of home for the excitement and opportunities of the Big Apple? But where else could she advance a career in her dream occupation, jewelry design? At first, she didn't think a sales position at Pelham's would be much of a career stepping stone, but she needed an income, and she got the job after one interview. She was told that she looked the part. A spitting image of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, said her human resources interviewer. And until she found something better, swiping platinum cards and tying up those little sage boxes at least paid the rent on the tiny two-bedroom she shared with Douglas in the East Village. And now she was on her way to meet the princess of New York high society, Pelham's creative director-to-be, the head of every junior committee, the party picture darling who was a celebutante even Julia's pals back home knew about. It was a little weird that her boss's 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 boss was about her age, maybe a couple years older, but Julia knew how the family business game was played. She figured she'd be dining out on the tail of her critical wedding day delivery for weeks to come. It was only after she stepped out of the limo that she wondered, why me? There were several other more senior girls who could have been chosen to bring Lell her jewels, and heck, Julia wasn't even in the PR department. Why had they chosen a salesgirl from the engagement ring section for such an important task? Chapter 2. Jean Pelham studied his stunning daughter as the makeup artist caressed the final dollop of blush onto her cherry cheeks. He was as emotional as he'd ever been, which was not very. The bottom line is this, sweetie. To whom much has been given, much will be expected. That's what Rose Kennedy used to say to her kids all the time, and let me tell you, it's good to remember. Teddy used to tell me constantly. God, Teddy and I had some fun times back in the day. You'll see him tonight. The Schlossbergs can't make it, but they want to take you to dinner as soon as you're back from your honeymoon. They were really apologetic. Did I tell you about the time Teddy, Frank Sinatra, and I were all on the boat in the Riviera? That Angie Dickinson, yeah. Well, I probably shouldn't tell you that, seeing as you're my daughter. And don't believe what you hear about me and Teddy on the vineyard. Father, Lell said, rolling her eyes, I've heard these stories 1,000,000 times. Could you give them a rest? It is my wedding day. You're right, sweetie, of course. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that now that you're getting married, you have a responsibility to properly represent the Pelham family. You're a crucial part of the business, and that's why I made you creative director. Let's face it, the future of the company's going to be up to you, kiddo. Your brothers are useless.
Lell's brother Augustus, 23, was completing his 5th year at the University of Colorado at Boulder with a major in women's studies, a.k.a. studying women up close. His minor was botany. Translation, pot smoking. 20-year-old Duke, a sophomore who was keg-standing his way through Lake Forest, had expressed little interest in the family biz. Lell's father had been the same way at their age. Once quite dashing and known as a wild playboy who threw famous parties with celebrities and beautiful people at exotic locales, he had only ever planned on living off the fruits of the business that his Russian great-grandfather, Eugene Pelham, née Evgenia Perelman, had built up from a small counter in the Diamond District to a world-famous New York institution. Until fate intervened. His older brother Martin, the heir apparent with a head for business, who was in fact all business, was killed in a plane crash on his way to the opening of a Pelham's in Dubai. Jean had no choice but to settle down and take the reins at Pelham's. 28-year-old Eleanor Lell Pelham was the oldest child of Jean and his wife, Emily Waingard Pelham, a Philadelphia mainline wasp who was dropped from the social register when she married jet-setting Jean. Though her parents nearly had coronaries when their daughter became engaged, she didn't care. Emily was drawn to Jean's blush-inducing, loud, animated stories and his suave confidence. But that was then, in her youth. Now she had regressed toward a temperament more approaching her mother's icy reserve. While Jean loved the limelight and the glitzy aspects that his job as CEO of Pelham's allowed him, Emily had become his polar opposite. Taciturn, uptight, and disapproving, she refused almost all social engagements and spent most of her time gardening at their mansion in Washington, Connecticut. The result was that Lell possessed a combination of her mother's aloofness and reserve, as well as her father's insatiable appetite for mixing with glamorous folk. It made for an interesting dichotomy.
"Jean, Lell has to get ready," said Emily, entering the dressing room of Lell's suite and shooting Jean an annoyed look. I know. We're just having a little father-daughter chat before I give my baby away to that rascal." "Dad," said Lell reprovingly. Just kidding, hon. You know we love Willoughby." "He's perfect for you," said her mother, then added, "and us." She gave Lell a sideways look as she straightened a small silk bow on the bottom of her daughter's custom-made Carolina Herrera gown. "He is the best." Lell's feelings for her mother vacillated between hero worship and hatred, but she was consistently elated to have made a match with a suitor that her mother approved of so heartily and vocally. "He better be, is what I'm saying, 'cause I just moved $50 million into his hedge fund," Jean teased. "Must we discuss money now?" Emily's tone was full of irritation. "Well, I want Lell to know about money and these things. Look, you're protected by the prenup. I had a serious talk with Willoughby last week and let him know there will be no nonsense. It's ironclad. The money is in your name, and it's a premarital asset. Of course he'll have access to it now. I figured you kids needed more money to get started." "Thanks, Daddy." "And I want you to close on an apartment as soon as you get back. Now that you'll be Mrs. Willoughby Banks, you need to live at a serious address. Park Avenue." "You're preaching to the choir. It's totally claustro. But, Dad, can we talk about this later? I need to get ready." "Certainly, sweetie." "Jean, why don't you go find Gus and Duke?" said Emily. "Make sure they're dressed and don't let them be late." "Right-o." When Lell's father left, the bride stood up to take a look at herself in the mirror.
She took a deep breath with a